So I've been talking about how Google is trying to make a huge headway when it comes to the medical space in AI. And last week itself, they announced something called MedGemini, which are the models that perform even better than GPT-4 or any other chatbot specifically in the medical space. And you would notice that MedGemini is at the top, better than GPT-4. And in fact, other models that are in here, most of these models are also by Google. So it seems that Google is really trying to build something on the lines of healthcare and bio in general. The model is able to do early diagnosis of the conditions of the patients merely by looking at the picture and also at the text. So it's a multimodal model. Anyway, so this week they announced AlphaFold 3, which is a model that predicts the structure and interaction of all the life's molecules. Now, this might not seem like a huge deal if you're not from bio or if you're not as interested in bio, but this molecule can understand the structure of all sorts of proteins, DNAs, and other molecules that exist in the universe or nature, at least the ones that are known to man in biospace. What this can do in the future is automatically build drugs without the reliability of humans in place, which is because typically these research projects are what would take longer for drug discovery in general. And in fact, in one of the interviews on Bloomberg, the CEO of Alpha said that in the near future, these models can realistically replace humans and only create medicines.
Different structures. So that's what AlphaFold 3 is about, is a first step in that direction, understanding what proteins, so not just other proteins, but also DNA and RNA, like you said, on real drug programs. And I would be expecting maybe in the next couple of years, the first...
So you noticed how very clearly he explained how what AlphaFold 3 is doing. It's basically able to predict these molecules and how they interact with each other. And he also mentioned that in the next couple of years, AI can basically start the drug discovery process, which is huge because this will require you to invest less in research and development. You will now focus on hiring more or machines in order to make these interactions, and also you'd be less likely to make mistakes because machine has all the data as opposed to humans who can only retain X amount of data at a specific point of time. So this is very interesting and it's a huge development. If you look at the suggestions here, one of the videos says that Google's fate hinges on this man. So, and which is true because at this point of time, Google is facing significant competition across search and a bunch of areas in general. And if it's able to make good headway in medical, this can pave a way for a lot of, and probably a more sustainable line of business for Google in the future. The reason why I say it's facing huge competition is because Microsoft also recently announced MAI-1, which is a 500 billion parameter model, and they've also been working on SLMs, which is small language model. So Google is facing competition left and right. And with this, I don't think Microsoft is dabbling as much in the bio or medical space. So they still have some time before, other companies start to explore or even explode in that space in general. The next thing that we want to talk about, and this is a bunch of OpenAI news that I have bundled together. The first one is Stack Overflow and OpenAI have partnered. So if you don't know what Stack Overflow is, it's basically a platform where developers can ask questions and other developers who are experienced can answer questions. After ChatGPT, because the model is great at coding, a crazy amount of volume dropped on Stack Overflow and you would be able to find it. So Stack Overflow volume dropped after ChatGPT. The volume drop itself, maybe I read some other source, but you can see the volume had dropped on Stack Overflow after ChatGPT became mainstream. And today they partnered with them. A lot of people are obviously not happy about it. So you can see there was a tweet here that basically says that a bunch of developers are not happy about this and they are now removing the answers that they have added on Stack Overflow. So broadly, I think this is a good move for both the companies because obviously Stack Overflow end of the day needs to survive when people will not be looking things on Google. I think this is more of an alarm for Google than for Stack Overflow, because how would you reach Stack Overflow answers is by typically asking that question on Google and then getting to that Stack Overflow page. But if people are not searching things on Google, that's a bigger alarm for Google than for Stack Overflow in general. Anyways, they partnered with OpenAI, which basically means more and more partnerships in the future. And here what they're basically going to do is take the Stack Overflow data, train their models to even write better codes. But the developers are not happy about it. Why would they want to train a model to replace them in the future? If you might have read, Devin was one of the examples. They would not be happy about building a model that could potentially replace them in the future, which is true. And the next one I want to talk about is AI powered F16. So The US Defense Secretary.
This is a feature of that race. It's one of the factors that matter.
I'm sitting in an F-16 like no other, and it just...
So this F-16, the fighter jet, is completely powered using AI. In fact, 2 weeks back, they even did a dogfight where you would notice there was a human pilot and an AI pilot, and they were in a dogfight. While obviously no missiles were fired, it was a simulated dogfight. But it goes on to show the potential that AI has even in these use cases. AI flying these jets isn't new. In fact, if you watch Top Gun Maverick, and if you've been an aircraft enthusiast, you would know that the idea behind limitations of aircraft, the aircrafts are currently limited by the person sitting in the aircraft. And in order to remove that limit, you would need to replace pilot with AI, which is what is happening right now. And if you look at this video, you would notice that this dogfight was conducted between a real human pilot and an AI pilot. So if you've played DCS in any capacity, this might look familiar, but honestly, this is a great step ahead when it comes to the military use cases of AI. And it's also kind of scary. Like, imagine the AI becoming a sentient, and if you have a bunch of these AI powered planes, things can go wrong real quickly. I have 1.5, Claude, and anything else that is available today. But if you look at my last video, I clarified that this chatbot was not officially launched by OpenAI because Sam confirmed it. But this is back. So it says I'm a good GPT-2 chatbot. So the chatbot is back, and no one really knows who launched it. It is available on chat.lmsys.org, and you can find two chatbots. So good GPT-2 chatbot, and this is the other one. And it is apparently performing better than all of these top models right now. So it says Claude, but it does not say Claude 3 Opus, or so no real clarity with respect to how good this really is. But it's known to do generations good for sure. So you can check it out. I just wanted to kind of talk about it. I'm not very much interested in playing around with this at this point of time because I know this is like a test chatbot and will eventually be released as, I think, the GPT-5 version if it's really by OpenAI. But at this point of time, it's a lot of noise. And so if you want to test it out, feel free to. But I just wanted to kind of let you folks know as well. OpenAI also released a blog post about the changes they are bringing to data management, which kind of hints somewhat in the lines of search. So you can see we respect the choices of creators and content owners of AI. The robot.txt standard was introduced and voluntarily adopted by internet ecosystem for web publishers to indicate what portions of website crawlers could access. So last summer, they made a web crawler that was able to go to these websites and get the content of the website. A lot of people mentioned that OpenAI is using their data to train the model to eventually replace them. OpenAI is trying to say using this blog post is that if you don't want us to crawl your website, just change the robots to not enable your website to crawl. But honestly, this is unfair because I don't want ChatGPT to scrape my website, but I want Google to crawl it. So how do I configure for that? They're also working on the media manager so that people who are the owners of the content can decide what content to share with them and what to not. Again, this is after a bunch of lawsuits were filed on them, and they still have a bunch of ongoing lawsuits. Honestly, for the good of all of us, they are taking a lot of heat, and they're probably doing this in order to kind of reduce the recurrence of these lawsuits. Again, whatever GPT is building, eventual beneficiaries of that product or feature is all of us. And the fact that they are dealing with the heat is kind of sad. And via this blog post, they're basically saying how they are trying to change their approach when it comes to training their models and deciding which data to use and which one not to use before they train the models per se. In fact, if you look at the tools like Claude, they are already banned on markets like EU, but GPT is not. So the question is GPT not banned because it has partnered with Microsoft, or is it not banned because it follows all of these principles? So it's kind of unfair to Claude that it's banned, but still GPT is kind of taking all of these steps in order to ensure that it's not restricted from certain markets. Again, there is a lot of noise as well. So I spoke on this last week too in my This Week in AI, that they may be announcing something on the lines of Google search. And a lot of people are talking about this, but both the co-founders announced that this is not the case. While they will be announcing something big on Monday, it's not going to be GPT-5 or search engine. And even Sam confirmed this, so it kind of breaks all these. So you might have heard a lot of people talking about these things on Twitter and LinkedIn, but they've clarified that this is not going to be announced. So if you were excited for it, well, GPT-5 is not going to be released anytime soon, but I think there is still a possibility that SORA might be announced. So talking about SORA, notice how before even we access already has a bunch of these different features that are released. This might look similar to what there was this VFX studio that was doing this. I don't exactly remember the name of the studio, but it kind of took these characters from the video, and then you had the option to change the characters. You can see in this example, this character was changed to something like this, and this character was changed to something like this. But you are now able to change the elements or the character inside of the SORA model. And this was announced by the support person of OpenAI, so it seems legit. It's still not out for everyone else, but this is some early research. And again, really interesting development. So I'm assuming SORA the first version will go live on this Monday, but let's see what is announced. And my assumption, talking about the video, there's also another video generator called Kriya AI, which can manipulate the images similar to what you would also do on, say, Gen 2 or Gen 1, where you take, instead of a person and, let's take a video and a style, and then the video is re-rendered based on the new style. But in this scenario, what is happening is that you take the person or the face or some component or some element, and then you take something else. You're seeing how a mushroom and frog gets combined. So it kind of combines two different elements to make them look fancy. Now, I'm not 100% sure the use case of this. There may be some VFX based use case of this, but I just wanted to talk about the development in the AI video space, something on the lines of what Kriya is doing at this point of time. Here's another example of the generation. And then there is also some development on the AI music side of the story. So Audio is one of the platforms where you can generate AI-based music, and they recently released a feature where change that area of the music. So which is very cool. I haven't really tried Audio as much, but I'm going to be spending some time to learn about how this works. They also have a free plan, so it seems like a great time to explore the platform itself. The next one, and it's on the lines of audio generation as well, is the 11 Labs music. So they recently introduced their own method to generate the music. Until now, they had the ability to either clone your audio or generate, speech from text. But this seems to be an interesting use case for them, given that they are in the audio generation space and they are one of the most used platforms for scenarios where content creators want to use synthetic audios in their videos. So this is again a major announcement. So Apple introduced M4 chip, and they recently introduced M3 chip. So this is a huge announcement. The best part about M4 is that it allows you to run scalable AI models directly in your laptop or MacBook. You can see it has a neural engine, a chip that is dedicated to acceleration of AI workloads. And this is obviously the most advanced chip capable of 38 trillion operations per second. And it's 60 times more faster than the first neural engine in A11 Bionic. They also claim that this is even more advanced than some of the more customized AI PCs, but I haven't had the time to try it out. I believe it's already being integrated in M4, and probably in the upcoming WW, this is what will be announced. Apple has been working a lot when it comes to AI development over the past few months. So if you've been following the channel, I've been talking about how they've been acquiring. So they acquired almost like 30 startups in the last 2 years, and have been extensively working on building mobile optimized AI models. One of these models was recently launched, and I kind of see some synergy when it comes to the M4 chip and the OpenAI model. So probably can expect something like this in the future from Apple, but they are going all in on AI after almost like 1.5 years of very little in AI. The next thing I want to talk about, and some of this is inspired by Matt's recent video on the AI news. So Hugging Face recently announced an open source framework to build robots. I think this is one of the first times I'm hearing about a framework by a company like Hugging Face. So it probably has the potential to be huge. Humanoid robots have been becoming mainstream over the last few weeks. And I think one of the companies in China recently released a video there where they're basically just creating clones and so realistic robots. I think last week itself, we covered one of the robots called Astribot, which was great at home-based tasks. Probably also something that kind of led to the growth of robotics in general. So I'm anticipating that this is going to be huge in the future itself. This is yet another one from Matt's video where you notice how the robot here is trying to balance on this yoga ball, The reason why this is important is because the robot was trained in a virtual environment. And if you remember, Seema, the simulated agent by Google, effectively had the capability to learn from video games and then perform those tasks in real life, potentially in the future. This is one of the first applications of that, where this dog was taught how to balance on a ball in a virtual environment, and then now it learned to balance itself even in real life, which is huge. Because imagine like a game which almost has like an infinite, and given that you have infinite time, you can do infinite amount of training on the model itself. So also, like I was talking about few of the robots, one of the videos that was released by a Chinese company where they had a bunch of these realistic robots. So I'm going to play the video now. If you look closely, all of these robots seem super realistic and almost seem like real person. Initially, when I watched this video, I almost felt like that was a real person. And obviously there are scientists working in the background to build these robots, but it kind of seems like a scene out of a sci-fi movie, a scary sci-fi movie where you're building like human clones that can be used from, day-to-day tasks to even modern warfare per se. So both scary, cool, and exciting. No link to the website, no more details about the product or the company. I think one of the things they also released last week was the competitor to SORA, Chinese competitor, wasn't as good as the SORA model itself, but the generations looked pretty realistic. They also announced the model that is better than GPT-4. Again, no more details with respect to the web page, but just announcements about the model. So it seems that they are building all of these things, but they're not building it as publicly as other companies are at this point of time, which is kind of scary. All right, so I think that's all I want to talk about. Like, one of the things that also came out from Matt's video was that machine learning aids in the discovery of sperm whale alphabet. So it kind of seems like at some point of time, we may be able to also talk to these animals using AI, but seems very early stage for that. I think there was a proper paper released on this and you can go through this, but again, no details with respect to depth of what was done. But it seems that there are developments where you could potentially in the future communicate to even animals using AI. So that's very, very interesting. And I think that's going to be all for this week in AI. If you folks have questions, let me know. So, all right, guys, thank you so much and have a good rest of the week.